Marshals escort a specialized inmate onto the plane. His head is covered by a hood, and his limbs are shackled with heavy chains. Compared to his crimes, the offenses of the other prisoners are practically trivial. He is tied alone to the last row of seats under the watch of 2 marshals. As the plane takes off, all the other prisoners try to escape but fail. However, he only twists his neck, and a tooth with a wire embedded in it falls out. He uses it to pick the locks, calmly waiting for the explosion he expects. One of the plane's engines catches fire, throwing everything into chaos. Several prisoners are sucked out of the cabin. The others seize the chance to grab the keys. The man successfully unlocks his hinges, regains his freedom, and takes down all the marshals with just a few punches and kicks. The pilot makes an emergency landing in a valley in Alaska. The surviving prisoners work together to break free from their restraints and defeat the marshals. Meanwhile, the Alaska Police Department receives a call from the fire department informing them of a large plume of smoke in the forest. Sheriff Frank immediately takes 2 officers and flies to investigate in a helicopter. When they reach the crash site, all the prisoners are gone. Only the bodies of several marshals and scattered handcuffs remain. After searching the area, Frank finds one marshal still alive. Just as he moves to rescue the man, a swarm of prisoners bursts out of the forest. Armed with weapons, they charge at the 3 officers. One officer, caught off guard, is stabbed multiple times. A bald prisoner tackles Frank to the ground and tosses his gun aside. In the nick of time, the marshal whose eyes were injured picks up the gun and saves Frank's life. The 2 fight through the intense attack, retreat to the helicopter, and escape. Back in town, Frank sends his stabbed colleague and the surviving marshal to the hospital via ambulance. He then gathers his officers for action. With no clear count of how many prisoners are still alive, their top priority is to block all roads in and out of the valley. If these violent prisoners sneak into the town, the consequences will be unthinkable. On the other side, the CIA is also deploying urgently. The director dispatches Agent Sidney to Alaska to assist. That specialized inmate's identity is tied to a classified operation, so the director had him disguised as a regular prisoner for transport, even keeping the pilot and marshals in the dark. The director tells Sidney, "Use Frank, catch the specialized inmate first. Don't let Frank know too much." Sidney calls Frank and demands he seal off the surrounding area, which makes Frank suspicious. He heads to the blindfolded marshal to find out what happened on the crashed plane. The marshal admits he knows very little, explaining that the plane had suddenly diverted to an Air Force base to pick up the hooded inmate named Havelock. Havelock's treatment was completely different from the other prisoners. The marshal believes Havelock is the one who brought down the plane and warns Frank to be extremely careful. Before long, a temporary command center is set up. According to intelligence, there were 52 prisoners on the crashed flight. 23 were killed, 11 were arrested, and 18 are still missing or at large. In the afternoon, Agent Sidney arrives in town. Frank asks her why the plane diverted and what the hooded inmate's real identity is, but Sidney refuses to answer, saying it's top secret. Left with no choice, Frank mentions Havelock's name and warns Sidney to stop messing with him. He only wants to catch the 18 escaped prisoners as soon as possible and protect the town's safety. Sidney remembers the director's words. Frank used to work on a fugitive task force in Chicago, but he couldn't stomach the city, so he got reassigned back to the icebox. He's a skilled investigator. There haven't been any homicides in the town for 5 years. Sidney knows she must rely on Frank's expertise for the manhunt, so she relents and reveals part of the classified information. It turns out Havelock was once a pawn created by the CIA, and Sidney was his trainer. She taught him weapons handling and flat-out butchery. Over the past 2 years, Havelock took out countless targets for the CIA. But a month ago, he suddenly turned rogue, becoming a genuine traitor, and vanished with top-secret intelligence. 2 days earlier, CIA agents captured him on the China-Russia border and planned to transport him to CIA headquarters via that plane. During their conversation, Frank's wife calls, urging him to rush to the hospital immediately. Sarah is a doctor, and she's treating the blindfolded marshal. Suddenly, heart-wrenching sobs echo through the corridor. The officer who was stabbed in the abdomen didn't survive the surgery. Fearing for her husband's safety, Sarah begs him not to be on the front lines. His own safety matters most. Both she and their son need Frank desperately. Frank is overwhelmed with mixed emotions, torn between his duty to the town and his promise to his family. On the other side, the command center receives a crucial lead. A weather observer living in the forest sent an unencrypted signal, but there's no response when they call back. Sidney guesses the dangerous inmate Havelock took the observer hostage. Inside the cabin, the inmate hears dogs barking outside, then notices the open radio on the table. He instantly realizes the observer sent a signal to the outside world. When the police arrive at the cabin, the inmate opens fire and takes the observer hostage. Fleeing into the snow, a standoff ensues. Frank promises to get him out safely if he surrenders his weapon, but strangely, Sidney keeps shouting at Frank to pull the trigger. Just as the inmate is about to say something, Sidney panics, swings an axe, and cuts the chain restraining the dog. It's not until the observer blows a whistle that the dog stops attacking. The inmate's throat is torn out. Frank stares in disbelief. Could the fearsome traitor really be dead? Sidney shakes her head in disappointment and admits he's not Havelock. Frank's suspicions grow. He's utterly confused by Sidney's actions. Clearly, there's an even bigger secret hidden here. Back at the command center, Sidney checks the prisoners' bodies one by one. She quickly spots something off. One corpse in a prison uniform has no handcuff bruises on its wrists, meaning he's not a prisoner. Frank pulls up the files, compares the photo, and confirms the dead man is Marshal Robert. Goosebumps break out all over Frank. Because the surviving Marshal had said his name was Robert, he finally realizes it's the specialized inmate Havelock in disguise. Frank immediately calls his wife, yelling for her to run. But it's too late. Havelock rips off the bandages, dropping the pretense. By the time Frank reaches the hospital, his wife and Havelock are long gone. Frank rushes to his son's school to pick him up, but fate deals another blow. His son skipped class with a female classmate, and they're nowhere to be found. To make matters worse, Havelock blew up the signal tower, cutting off all the town's internet and communications. Just then, Havelock's voice comes over the walkie-talkie. He says he and Sidney did plenty of dirty work together, so he doesn't trust the CIA. Luckily, Frank's wife tended to him so well that he realized the Franks are trustworthy, so he wants Frank to be his conduit.
And what we're gonna do together, it's gonna change the world.
Furious, Frank confronts Sidney, demanding the full truth. He can't stand his beloved wife getting hurt. But Sidney offers no explanation, only that Havelock will use his wife as leverage for something, so she's safe for now. Through reporters, Frank goes public with the plane crash and the 18 escaped prisoners, advising town residents to stay home. Other major crimes units rush to assist with the operation. Soon, they trace the last location of Frank's son's phone signal to the mountain road, and Frank instantly guesses where his son is. It turns out the kid wanted to plan a romantic trip for his female classmate, so he drove her to the cabin where Frank plans to live with his wife after retirement. But before they reach it, the car's tires get stuck in the thick snow. The two have no choice but to hike the rest of the way. Frank can't leave his post, so he arranges for a state trooper to find his son. At the same time, the police find traces that Havelock was at Frank's house. Havelock had real nerve. After kidnapping Frank's wife last night, he even stayed the night there. But by the time Frank gets home, they're long gone. Only a camera stands in the storage room. Clearly, Havelock wants to use it to prove the hostage is alive and make demands. Yet they search the entire house and find no tape. Another officer brings bad news. Havelock hacked into Frank's computer and accessed the Marshal database's flight passenger list. Confused and frustrated, Frank asks Sidney what the traitor could be up to. Sidney brushes him off with a few comforting words. In reality, Sidney had found the tape Havelock left behind and hidden it. She wants to check first if the video has anything that could hurt her. Hours earlier, she'd called the CIA director to report Frank's wife's abduction, but the director didn't care if Frank's wife lived or died. She only gave Sidney one order: capture Havelock at all costs, and if necessary, take him out on the spot. Sidney presses the director to reveal what other secrets he's hiding. Why didn't the CIA hold Havelock locally? Why bother with the hassle of transporting him on that plane? Forced to tell the truth, the director finally admits, before turning rogue, Havelock hacked the CIA database and stole a top-secret file called Archive 6. It contains a list of targets the CIA plans to eliminate. If the list is exposed, it will be devastating for the CIA. Alright, that's it for today's recap. Head over to my homepage. You'll find tons more recaps just like this one. I'm hastening to write and edit the next recap, so feel free to leave a comment and share your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these recaps coming.